Hey, hey, first grade. It's time for a little more of Zoe and Sassafras, Unicorns and Germs. Little quiz question for you. Let's see how you do. Are you ready? My first word that we have learned while reading this book, do you remember what that is? Did you say bacteria? Bacteria, yep. Tiny microscopic living things, and they can be harmful or helpful. Next word, antibiotic. Do you remember what that is? That's medicine that the doctor can give you that will get rid of bacteria, the harmful kind, right? Next, do you remember this word? It's kind of a tricky word. Agar. Agar is a gelatin substance that Zoe was working with last time we read, and it's a mixture that you mix it up with other ingredients and you put it in scientists use this, a petri dish. Just a small little container that scientists use to grow bacteria in. And Zoe and her mom were using those last time we were reading. All right, so chapter 6 is about Tiny, and you need to be listening for, oh, there's Tiny, what magical power Tiny has. So listen for that, because you're going to have to write about it, aren't you? Sassafras decided to be brave and come with Mom and me out back. After all, it was no longer raining and Tiny was lying down, so he seemed a little smaller. We carefully dodged puddles as we went, but Sassafras slammed to a stop before we got to Tiny. Even lying down, a baby unicorn is pretty enormous. Poor Tiny looked just awful. I tried not to think about how horrible I'd felt when my ear was infected with bad bacteria. Gotta move him, don't we? I took a deep breath. This experiment would fix him up. Hi, Tiny. We're gonna figure out how to heal your infection. But first I need to grow some of the bacteria so I can run experiments. I need to touch your cut, but I'll be very gentle. Is that okay? I realized my mistake too late. A yes or no question? Eek! As Tiny nodded, I held onto my thinking goggles and Mom clutched our supplies tightly. Do you remember what happens when he nods? But it was too late. Poor Sassafras. Too late for poor Sassafras. The huge gust of wind rolled him right into a giant puddle. Uh-oh. For a few seconds, Sassafras sat stunned in the middle of the puddle, soaking wet. Then he hissed, puffed, and jumped all at the same time. He hopped around like crazy, trying to shake himself dry. Oh, Sassafras! I put my hands to my cheeks. I'm so sorry, buddy. Tiny watched Sassafras and asked, Can't have ow? No, he's not hurt. He just really hates being... What do you think? Yep. Did you say wet? Wet. Cats don't like that, do they? Don't worry, he'll calm down once he's dry again. Tiny stretched his neck out toward Sassafras. My poor freaked out cat was so worried about getting the water off that he didn't see the unicorn horn coming at him. When Tiny's horn touched Sassafras, a quick burst of rainbow light appeared. When the rainbow light disappeared, it revealed a shocked Sassafras who was completely dry and clean. Whoa! Sassafras picked up and examined each paw. Then he walked around in a circle. He asked. Tiny fixed, ow! Tiny explained. Sassafras blinked for a moment, then slowly walked over to Tiny. I could tell he was still a little scared, but he gently bopped his head against Tiny's enormous leg and snuggled down next to him and purred. Then it hit me. Tiny, you can use your unicorn magic to fix your cut. Tiny shook his head, and thankfully it was gentle, enough that it didn't blow us away. Horn no work for unicorns. Horn for others. Mom nodded. I don't think you've seen my journal entries on unicorns yet, Zoe. I've met a few over the years because they are only able to help other creatures. Their magic doesn't work on other unicorns or themselves. But don't worry. We'll figure out how to help, Tiny. I stood up straighter. Yes, we will. I grabbed a cotton swab from our supplies and carefully rubbed it near the bottom of the cut and tried hard not to think about how much worse it looked. Then I rubbed the same cotton swab gently on the surface of the petri dish. Mom put the lid on, taped the edges of the dish, and sealed the whole thing in a Ziploc bag. I took 4 different samples of the cut just to be safe. I patted Tiny's good leg. Now we have to wait for the bacteria to grow. Oh, and I need to get started on my research. I've got to make a list of things that I think will get rid of this bacteria. Tiny nodded his head, and so weakly that it only made a gentle breeze. My heart sank a little. Mom and I hugged Tiny. I ruffled Sassafras's fur and left him behind because he wouldn't budge from Tiny's side. Oh, why do you think that is? Why do you think Sassafras is hanging on, staying with Tiny? All right, tomorrow, friends, we will read What Will Work.